Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another of these recent Dino Escape Wild Pack figures. As we have just taken a look recently at the Zuniceratops, we now are going to check out the Dracorex. This is probably the third release of the Dracorex from Mattel. I could be wrong, it might be the fourth, but I'm pretty sure it's the third. I've always been a big fan of the paint schemes from Mattel for their Dracorex figures, and this one looks really quite nice as well. I don't think I was super sold on it initially, but actually seeing it here in package, it looks really quite nice, actually a lot better than I thought it would be. Another area that I'm seeing straight away I'm super psyched about is the fact that just like the Zuniceratops, they've added paint out onto the tail, which thank you so much, Mattel, because it just looks so much nicer when they do that. This figure was sent my way thanks to my good buddy Hatbox Ghost, so I want to, of course, give a huge shout out to him for hooking me up with this as well as the other wild packs in this wave. Again, my area is just completely obliterated all the time as far as scalpers go, and actually in general, this figure was found at Kroger. I don't think it's been spotted in Target or Walmart's or anything like that quite yet, and I don't have Kroger's in my state at all. So a huge thank you goes out to my buddy again, Hatbox Ghost, for hooking me up with these figures. But the box art here, again, is probably the nicest box art that I feel like we've had for this style of figure yet from any of the lines of Jurassic figures from the beginning of Mattel creating the Jurassic World line. It's such beautiful box art. I've really been loving the artwork here on these Dino Escape figures, and again, they're just so nice. I almost don't even want to open them, but I always do, of course, for you guys so that we can get some reviews up. But you can see here on the back, again, we have the others that are included in this first wave of Wild Pack figures with the Herrerasaurus, which is the only one that I actually have yet to acquire, the Dimorphodon, the Zuniceratops, which we have reviewed already, and the Dracorex we're about to review right now. So let's go ahead, break it out of the box, and take a look at it. So here is our Dracorex, and I can say without question, this is the nicest I think the Dracorex has looked so far, and that's crazy because initially I wasn't honestly all that excited about this particular paint variant, but actually having it here in hand, the paintwork is extremely appealing, and that paint running out onto the tail is just like the icing on the cake. It just takes the entire appearance of this figure to another level of beauty, and just really nice looking. Like the reddish coloration plays off of the rest of the color here of the body so much better than I expected it to. And of course the sculpt is really, really nicely done as well. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Dracorex, you can see that of course the sculpting and detailing is really well done. However, we have actually reviewed the sculpt of this figure prior to this, as this is again, I believe, the third release of this specific sculpt. So we don't really need to take a look at the sculpt or anything like that, but what we really need to look at is of course what's new. If you would like to see a more detailed review of the sculpt, again check out one of my previous reviews of this Dracorex. But again, what's new on this would just be the paint application, and what a beautiful paint application we have. On the head we primarily have a really nice dark brown, and it actually looks really, really nice overall on the figure. But you also have like this kind of almost like a dark pinkish red type of a color here that kind of like borders around the eye and just kind of splatters all over the face. And it looks super appealing with that darker brown behind it. Really nice looking paint there on the face. Definitely a very nice color choice on the part of Mattel, which actually again looks way nicer than I expected it to. That reddish coloration also has like a glossy look to it, which is something that I kind of am like hit or miss with as far as whether I enjoy it or not, but it actually does look really quite nice on this figure and really helps the entire face to stand out quite beautifully. The eye is painted with a really nice light green, and we actually have a black pupil, which is super cool because they did not need to give it a black pupil. If you really look at it with this darker brown, they could have probably just used the darker brown there as the pupil, which is something that Mattel I feel like definitely would have done previously, because they were actually a pretty big fan of doing that. However, I personally don't like when they do that. I feel like the small little addition of a black pupil really does make a pretty big difference as far as the coloration of the eye goes, and it's something that honestly, by using the coloration in their back of like the primary body color of the head and stuff that they've done before, I feel like it has actually almost ruined figures that they've released because it just doesn't look that good when it comes to the eye paint. But I'm really happy to see that they have been continuously using black pupils as opposed to the coloration there on the primary part of the head. It just makes such a huge difference as far as the overall appeal factor goes. And the eye paint looks pretty nice for the most part. It looks like maybe it's slightly misplaced, but just barely. And then if we take a look over here at this side, again, same deal. The eye placement is just slightly off, but for the most part, it looks pretty darn nice. And you also see that, again, that reddish coloration, that glossy color there on the face. And then as you lead back here into the back of the head, you can see more of that reddish coloration pick up, or almost like a magenta type color. And it takes over a lot of these spikes sticking out of the back of the head of the Dracorex, but also just generally the back of the head in general here you can see does sport that coloration back there. And of course you can move the head forward there to get a good look here at the back of the neck, and you can see that after that reddish type of a coloration there kind of tapers off, we have a very nice dark brown, and that dark brown runs the course of the back, and you can see it just kind of spots and stripes all over the place. It's definitely quite abundant up here on the back, but I love how they've allowed the greenish body color to pop through the brown areas and stuff, spotting through everywhere. It looks really cool. I love that application of the paint. Definitely looks really quite nice on the figure. And like I stated earlier in the review, you can see that that dark brown actually runs the entire course of the tail here. So that is super nice, literally all the way out to the tip. And that is awesome. I love the fact that Mattel has been applying paint to the majority of the figures here with the tails, like they did it with the Zuniceratops. Now they've done it here with this Dracorex, and again, it just makes such a huge difference as far as how nice it looks when you actually add that tail paint all the way out there onto the tail. Other than that, we don't really have much else going on, except if you take a nice close look here, or even over here in the leg, you can see that we do have that speckling going on, but it's with a darker green, which I kind of expected it to be that dark brown, because again, that's something that Mattel often does, but they continue to surprise me because they've added a dark green speckling to the figure as opposed to that dark brown, and that actually looks pretty cool, and I definitely can appreciate the fact that Mattel has given it even a little bit more extra paint application. We don't really have any paintwork or anything here on the underside of the figure. There is no paint here for the nails, which is probably the next thing that Mattel could work on improving on their figures, but again, one step at a time here. I'm psyched in general to have some paint out there onto the tail. But again, here is the Jurassic Facts app if you would like to add this to your collection. But absolutely a beautiful looking Dracorex, and again, just so much better than I expected it to be. As far as articulation on our Dracorex goes, we have very nice articulation here. First of all, right here in the head. So you can see, actually similar to the Zuniceratops, how we had the almost like a ball joint where we can move the head forward and back. Some beautiful articulation right there. On top of that articulation, you can also, again, swivel the head, and you can turn the head completely around if you would like and make them look totally crazy. But really, really nice articulation there in the head. And you also have articulation down here at the base of the neck, which can go up or down, giving you some pretty nice posability for your figure, nice display options. You also have articulation here in the arm, as well as the legs right there. It doesn't really move away from the body, which isn't something that we often see with attack packs, but you can also see, again, a swivel tail. So some pretty nice articulation for our Dracorex, but as far... Oh, he fell on his face. But as far as a size goes, if I actually get the feet in the right spot, he'll stand. There we go. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at, if the dinosaur has its head upright, of course, if we put the head out a little further, it would be a little longer, but you are looking at about 6¼ inches, or around the 16 centimeter mark. And then for a height, right around the 3½ inch range, or 9 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our Dracorex, and obviously showing you that it's the same size as all of the previous Dracorex figures, especially considering the fact that it is the exact same sculpt, but also showing you that it follows along with the same typical size range for the Attack Packs and now Wild Pack versions of the Mattel dinosaurs, but again, pretty darn nicely sized for sure. And then for a second comparison, here is the brand new Zuniceratops next to the Dracorex, showing you how these two figures as well size up to each other, and probably two of my favorite paint schemes that I think I've seen on Mattel figures in quite some time here, staring each other down. Really nice tones of green used for both, really nice coloration that runs all the way out onto the tail. Both are a total win, but again, hopefully this will show you how cool the two look together as well. So this brand new Mattel Dino Escape Jurassic World Wild Pack version of the Dracorex is another awesome release from Mattel. And again, some people don't like the fact that Mattel tends to release a lot of repaints. I, however, actually do quite like that. I mean, there are some that are a little washed out as far as repaints go, like the Dimorphodon, which is actually the next Mattel figure that I'm probably going to have up here on the channel for review, as that's the only other wild pack here from this wave that I currently have. But the Dimorphodon has had about 1 billion repaints so far. The Dracorex, however, has not. And again, I believe this is like the third, actually maybe it's the fourth. It might be the fourth version of the Dracorex that we've had. I can't remember. There's been a few, but there hasn't been too many. But as far as this particular version goes, I really like it. Like, I think that the paint application they've given this is just phenomenal. And again, it's one of those instances where you can really never trust promotional images, because when you see the figure, it's just giving you a rough idea of what it would look like in hand, and you can't truly tell just how nice it is until, or at least I can't anyway, until I actually have the figure in hand here, or we see in general what the final product looks like, because often Mattel figures tend to, you know, as time goes on, they change, and what we see in the promotional images may not actually be, paint-wise, what we get on the final product. They've even gone to the point of changing entire color tones on their figures and changing them for the official release. So you never truly know how nice the figure will actually look until we actually get a look at the final product. And I will say that the final product of this Dracorex is beautifully done. I love the dark browns up there on the back, and I love the way that that kind of like reddish type of a coloration there on the face and up there on the horns on the back of the head play off of the entire coloration of the head sculpt with that brownish color. Like, it just stands out so nicely and just really highlights the face. And then of course you have that gorgeous tone of green for the lower part of the body, and I really love how that brown kind of like spots and stripes down, but the green continues to like spot and stripe up into the body. It just plays off of each other so nicely, and both colors really complement each other. And then the fact that you have like that kind of like darker green color that spots and speckles throughout the figure is just, you know, a really cool little subtle added touch by Mattel, but I really quite like that as well. Of course, the sculpt is fantastic on top of everything. I've always been a big fan of the Dracorex sculpt from Mattel. So again, my buddy Hatbox Ghost scored this figure for me at Kroger, so if you are interested in this and you have Kroger in your area, make sure you check your local Kroger out to potentially purchase this really cool Dracorex. I don't know when they'll start to show up at Target and Walmart, hopefully not too far off in the future, especially because I would love to score a second Zuniceratops to repaint. But again, this is a really nice figure. I absolutely recommend picking it up. So if you happen to encounter it out in the wild, make sure you do in fact pick it up. And otherwise, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.